All right. Okay. So, I think this is going live right now. So let's change it back to scene one. And let's make sure that we are. Yeah, let's do this. All right. So we are live. How are you guys today? Okay. Seems like nobody's in there yet. So I'm going to explain this, and thank you to everyone that has purchased a digital copy of my coffee break doodles. I should probably have one around like at every given point. Give me a second. Okay, so we have Coffee Break Doodles, The Art of Rodgon, Volume 1. It's a collection of all my sketches and, well, a curated version of all my sketches from the first 3 or 4 years of me doing what I do. So if you guys want to take a look at that, there is a digital version and a normal printed copy version. And you guys can purchase it through my Instagram link. All right, so we have a couple people in the chat. King Cobra, I'm good. How are you, Rodgon? I'm doing fantastic. And we're about to be doing a lot better because we're about to draw. Breezy J, how are you? Actually, I have not been very good. I have been sick as a dog the last 3 days. And I was terrified that that was going to be COVID. And I did not want it to be COVID because I just didn't want it to be COVID. So I went tested. I went to get tested, and there was nothing. It wasn't COVID, at least. I think it was just like a stomach virus or something. And yeah, it hurts like a demon, though. But hey, what are you gonna do? I'm just going to be drawing here with all of you. Let me adjust the camera a little bit. There you go. Okay, so the assignment for tonight is a pinup. The pinup is a commission. Commission. Is that how you spell commission? I think so. So a commission, in all general terms, is a job that you take for money. A job that somebody else comes up with the idea. Client comes up with the idea. Commissions are normally paid. We'll talk about, how to get paid for that. Then it comes in steps. So the first step is sketches or roughs. The next step is sending for revisions. Send in sketches to narrow the, oh my god, my handwriting is horrible. I can't even read it. Send roughs for approval. Every time that you send a stage and it gets approved, they can't back up from that point. So any changes that happen to anything that went past that point will normally get charged as an extra upkeep or an extra editing fee. Every time that you have to go back and redo something because they didn't see it right is not really your problem. You have to state that at the beginning when you actually talk to people so that you don't end up doing a million revisions for free. Approval of sketch. Now, the approval of the sketch gives you a general direction of where you're supposed to be going. In this case, I have complete freedom as to what I'm going to do because I'm partnering up with the person. And I'm not doing it as I'm getting a percentage, which is another way that you can get paid. So I'm doing this for a upfront fee and a commission, so I'm not going to be requiring sending approval. It's just going to be a mutual thing. I'm pretty sure whatever I come up with is going to be really cool. And normally you send it in for approval and then you refine the sketch. Refine sketch. Again, send for approval. Edits in between. Edits, edits. Once approved, you move on to the inking. And then you do the inking and send it in for approval. Once that's set, you send in the colors. You send that up for approval. And then you're done. Normally, it's a very intensive back and forth process for an actual commission. And it's on both parties to be able to keep that communication up. Because if you don't, then everything goes to poopies. So now, what am I going to be doing today? Today, we have a really fun idea. We have it's going to be a pinup, but the pinup is going to be, in general terms, used for a lot of different merchandise. So it has to be good for t-shirts. It has to be good for boogie boards. Where'd that go? Okay, there you go. It has to be good for, boogie boards. It has to be good for posters. So I came up with a concept in my own mind where I was just going to okay. This is actual other things that I have to keep in mind. This is all going to be for a surf shop type of thing that's down in Puerto Vallarta. So I have to make sure that it still has a tropical theme to it, a touristy theme or something like that. They requested the woman to be beautiful, busty, and with very skimpy clothes. Right up my alley. That's something that I love drawing. That's why I took on the commission. So now it's up to us to create something that's very appealing and come up with it in a way that can be made into several things. And that comes with certain limitations. That comes with understanding how things are going to be printed. That comes with the understanding of how many colors we can use to be able to create this piece. And also the amount of detail that can be represented into a printing surface. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we go. Hanis Masuki, I'm doing fine, man. Currently doing my sketches with you. Yes. Chris Best Weber, buenas noches. Buenas noches, señor. If you guys didn't know, I'm Mexican. Rodgon stands for Rodrigo Gonzalez. So, I do plan at some point or another to make more videos in Spanish. It's just so hard to find time to do everything and work a full-time job. Jesus. I wish that I was to the point where I could just do everything like this full-time, because this is what I thoroughly enjoy the most. But I like teaching. I love teaching. And I get to do this not as often as I wish. Okay, so in order to keep everything in a really cool layout, I was thinking of having the pinups, or the pinup. First of all, I gotta see how much of the actual frame I want to use, and if I'm going to be doing like more top heavy, or am I going to be showing a little bit of hip. So I'm just drawing a general face, the neck, some shoulders, and they did want chesty women, so I'm going to be drawing considerably larger breasts. Now I'm going to draw outside of the border a little bit, because I don't know if I want to include her hips in there or if I don't. We're going to go with a very Jessica Rabbit-ish type of look to our woman, where our breasts are literally gravity defying. Or I'll figure out a way to make them being held up by like a little tiny t-shirt or something like that. Now, as of lately, I have not been drawing my women incredibly busty and like that. I have learned to appreciate a lot of the subtleties that go into drawing women of all shapes and sizes. And coming up with the real like good pinups is all about finding the beauty in every single aspect of a feminine body. Not just the traditional big breast, big butt type of thing. You learn to identify a lot of fun elements within a woman's body that you can enhance and make it look beautiful. So, in time, I'll be able to master that and I'll be able to teach it to you guys. Alright, so how about we go with like a profile? And then we can still show the boobs. So the reason that I'm going with half cut off face is not necessarily to like cheat and like get it to be less work. It's more so trying to find a fun composition that's going to allow me to make like palm trees, maybe set up like a bench, and make a fun little design in the background. That will allow me to create a fun piece, and then whatever name of whatever company can go in that extra area. And then whenever they do their prints or whatever, it's going to be really easy. Plus, it adds an element of originality to, you know, what a normal t-shirt would be. Like, I thoroughly enjoy adding more and more, you know, depth to my drawings, so I don't scurry away from adding extra detail or trying new things, because that's the only way that you actually are able to learn how to do more things. Okay, so in this case I changed the direction of her body by putting the clavicle right there, which means that the breasts... Oh, I'm gonna have to show you guys this method too at some point, but just finding perfect positioning for boobs. Okay. Let's do a very pouty upper lip, since that is the whole thing nowadays, I guess. And let's look at some comments. Sangoner, what up? Robinson Fernandez Jr., Uruguayo Americano representing. LOL. Dragons on Stilts, howdy, hey, how's it going, man? Flapjack, who was your influences growing up? You remind me of Christopher Hart. Funny thing you might say that. Christopher Hart was one of the few people whose books actually taught me something. Since I didn't really know how to draw when I started my career in animation, and I honestly didn't, Christopher Hart's books helped immensely. The way that he explains things is incredibly good, incredibly fun. And honestly, I wish that there was more of his stuff back when I was going through school. And that was a long time ago. That was wow. Started school in 2002, so technically 20 years ago I went to school. Okay, so we have hair falling, change the directions. All right, so at this point I'm just blocking in everything. Nothing that I have set here yet is completely solid or means that I'm gonna leave it there. I'm just exploring, and I'm honestly just trying to figure out how the best way to, position logo. That's probably gonna be a good one. Have that there. Maybe add some more depth, some more flowers. And then how to make this grow as appealing as possible when we're only showing that much. So we're talking about a touristy crowd, and touristy crowds are normally a lot of horny teenagers. Horny teenagers are attracted to what they see on TV. So we gotta give them skimpy clothes. Okay, I'm drawing right now, I'm drawing the bikini. And the bikini is essentially a string that goes around your neck and it goes around your waist. So when you're drawing it on someone, that's a really easy way to remember where these are supposed to be going. And remember, they're still cloth, so they still wrap around and they grab a hold of stuff, and then things squeeze and stretch and squish, so you create little tiny folds. These little folds create the cleavage and other parts that squish together. Happens with most folds of fat in the body and a lot of muscles. Okay, so we're gonna do that. I'm just gonna make this a little smaller so I can fit those in there. Okay. Anytime that you need to just resize a thing, it doesn't look quite right, you can always use the lasso tool and just kind of move it around till you get what you need. Okay. So for the most part, that looks okay. Now to start off with, let's see, what other thing is appealing about character at the beach? Okay, while I think about that, I'm going to read some more comments. Christopher Hart was a big influence, but Steven Silver and Chris Yandel, no, not Chris Yandel. What's his name? Chris Sanders. I have his book right there. That's why I said that. And Dean Yeagle, as well as Scott Campbell. Those were probably my biggest factors. Later on, it was Randy Bishop and Humberto Ramos. Humberto Ramos is a huge influence for me. Okay, so going back to this, we're gonna separate the face into a different layer, mostly because I want to make sure that the features can be scaled easy. So I'm gonna draw the top of the head. Let's do this in a different color so you can actually see what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is going to be mapping out the real anatomy of the character real quickly. With my simplified anatomy that I like to do. So I already established the mouth, so I know the mouth is going to be right there, the teeth would be right there, and that would go into my cheekbones, right? So that gives me already a bunch of landmarks that I can use in order to map out the rest of the base. Now, if that's where the cheekbone is, that means that the nose cavity is supposed to be around here. The nose cavity tells you where your eyes are supposed to be because it gives you where your eye socket is supposed to be and your cheekbone. And then depending on how big you want your eyes, you can create your eye cavity to be that big. So now with this information, you can recreate a ton of different facial shapes. But in this case, I'm noticing that maybe I should bring the hair down a little bit so it's not as poofy up. And maybe I'll move the bangs out of the eyes so much so it doesn't conflict with that. So I'm just going to bring this down. I'm going to go back to this sketch. I'm going to bring the hair a little bit closer to where the skull is so it's not as poofy. I have a bad tendency of drawing incredibly poofy hair. And it's nice sometimes, but it's not always nice. As in, it should not be always. Maybe we'll cover one of the eyes. And who knows, maybe we'll give her some earrings and stuff. Okay. I'll give her a little flower. It's gonna be like a tropical thing. Make it even a slightly more erogenous thing by just showing a slight indication of the nipple. Not overly obscene, just a slight indication. And then we know that this eye is going to be covered. We have our nose that's going to be around here because our nose cavity is right there. So we just got to draw the cartilage. And then we're going to go with, what kind of eyes should we go with? I have a feeling since they're going to be, Puerto Vallarta is just full of a lot of Latin women, right? And it's Mexico. So maybe we go with more Mexican looking. Yeah, something like that looks nice. All right, the cheek would go in a little bit more. And just like that, we have a pretty decent looking pinup already. All right, the next big step is deciding how we're gonna draw the actual eyes inside, right? Is it gonna be angry? Is it gonna be more full? Or are they gonna be looking to the side? I think I should probably make it more seductive. So let's go back to this. All right, so seductive eyes. How do you make seductive eyes? Okay, I'm gonna look into the camera. You guys tell me if this is seductive or not, okay? All right, let me go this way. I'm not very good at making seductive eyes. But let's just go back at it and back this part. Nothing comes incredibly simple. We gotta practice and do a couple things, even at my level. Two. Okay, who was your first influences? Funny Corn Swag 487. Any drawing advice with shading? Yes. Learn thick to thin. Learn how to do thick to thin lines. This is a flat circle, but a flat circle with the right thickness to it starts looking like it has a little bit of shading. Add a little bit of a light source and a tiny bit of a shadow, and you have a very cool semi-lit sphere. With this, without the thickness, you don't really get that. When you're doing, you know, anything from portraits to caricatures to even just drawing and inking in general, having that thick to thin line is incredibly valuable. So thicker where the shadows hit, lighter where the light will hit. Right? So if something has a light source here, it'd be really thin here and progressively get darker until you get to the back. And that's how you create a quick element of lighting. I use that a lot. Okay. Hanif Masuki. Hey Rodgon, I'm going to ask, which part is the hardest to draw from a female body? Oof. Oof. Honestly, I think the entirety of the female body is incredibly difficult to draw. And it's because of the incredible subtlety that is required to capture like the sexiness of the poses. And it's very subtle compared to having to draw men. So yes, it's very, very women are hard to draw well. And that's honestly something that goes like into a lot of different careers. It is one of the most coveted skills to learn as an artist. And in my opinion, I think it's the hardest to master. Because you're constantly battling two things. You're battling the conception of what a pinup is, right? So you have to be true to what you think your pinup should be. And you should, you know, honestly, like, if you like doing women drawings a certain way, keep to it. Because it's going to be a lot of societal pressure to draw differently than what you want. And even I get it. My stuff is very tame. But even I get it, where like, oh, don't like, you know, say this or portray this. You know, I draw and I spent 25 years of my life trying to learn how to actually put these thoughts that I have in my head onto a piece of paper or in real life. I'm so tired of people telling me what I can and cannot draw. Like, it's so incredibly annoying. So, honestly, my procedure from now on is going to be either people say nice things, or if they start arguing with other people in my streams or in my comment section, I'm just blocking you guys. Negativity is not gonna be allowed anymore. And that's only been a recent thing too. Like, it's weird. Like, most of the people in my fan base are incredibly kind and gentle people. But recently I've been getting a few bad apples and don't like it. So you guys, be good. I want to be able to keep sharing with you guys everything. Okay, so now we have our face. We fixed our lips a little bit. We adjusted everything. Maybe she'll have glasses too. She is a tourist after all, right? Maybe. And then we can move the flower up here, so it's a little bit outside. Maybe behind her hair. Okay. All right. Now it's starting to look like something. Okay. See, doing this outside might not be the best option to do, especially if we're going to be printing on different materials. Keeping it to very few elements coming out means that it can still be used as a patch. It could still be used on a hat. It could still be used on stickers. It could still be used on prints for t-shirts, hoodies, blankets, posters, promotion items, marketing, online, social media, and every other thing that you can possibly think of. So whenever you're designing something for a client, keep that in mind, because that's where the value is of what you can charge for them. If you can make it seem like what you're providing is going to solve everything for them, why would they not pay you what you are asking for? So keep that in mind. Okay, brow ridge. Now let's see. Latina women have very, very dark eyes for the most part. So, and I'm also going for an appealing look for t-shirts. So it has to be appealing and sexy, which leads me to an angled eye look with very heavy eyelashes. Very Chris Sanders. With a little bit of Rodgon flair. I'm gonna give myself a nice big. There you go. I think that might be a little too high on the head, but I like the shape, so I'm just gonna keep this. I'm gonna move it down a little. Move it in. Scale it up. There you go. Something like that. Okay, we quickly okay, the important element here is the eye. So we got to make sure that the hair doesn't conflict too much with that. The eye has to be nice and legible. We only have one of them in the whole scene. So we got to make sure that it's like super nice and crisp and it commands exactly the look and the feel that we want. A very seductive look is normally met with a very heavy eyelid. Like, and it's looking slightly down. So let's try to do that. I'm trying to give myself a slightly even bigger eyelid. And with t-shirts and stuff, you have to have a very decisive way that you're going to approach it. You can't have a passive look. You have to literally consider every aspect of the design. Like, do you want it to be a happy pinup? In this case, I think I do want it to be a happy pinup. So I'm going to give her a little smile. I'm gonna bring her eye down even more. And make it look like she's really looking up, like There you go. The general look has been achieved. I'll refine it as we sketch it, but I enjoy that. I like that. And then I'm just going to move the hair to go around that, to complement that. Maybe one little, no, not even that. Just like that. Nice clean lines for her eyebrows because, you know, women really are meticulous about their eyebrows. All right. Okay, so right now she just looks like a touristy, sexy lady. Let's try to see what it looks like when we rotate the eyes a little bit. That looks a little better. And I can also test out if it would look better with bigger eyes. Nope. How about smaller eyes? Ooh, smaller eyes. You know what? I think that's a good medium right there. I think that it's about too far out. Then a little bit of shading. Okay. Now let's add a little bit of contrast so we can know where we can actually play around with everything. I think maybe I need to move the lips down a little bit. Since she is looking down. And maybe you can make the lips a little poutier. You know, let's save these in case. I think we can be more playful with the mouth. So we'll save these and have those just in case. Actually, we'll even use them as a template because I kind of like the shape of that mouth. You know, position it. There you go. Now we can make a new layer and let's play with a couple different mouths. So that one has some potential. Very Harley Quinn-ish. I think that's way too big. Is it? I think it's just because of the lips are being so big. Okay, hold on. She is looking down, so the bottom lip would be considerably bigger. And if I just added a little bit of upper lip. Oh, there you go. That doesn't look too bad. Make a tiny bit smaller. Kind of like that. And also, a lot of things that... Another thing that I really like to do in Photoshop when I get a chance to is when I do select something like that, just use the warp tool. And then just even everything out. But I think at this point it's still a little too high. So we're gonna go right there. We'll also round out the lips so it gives us a more feminine shape. And for now we're just gonna fill it. Leaving a couple little things as highlights. Okay. All right, okay. Add some highlights to this. All right. Artist Owens, your skills are over 9,000. Yeah. Robinson Fernandez, is there general or normal number of revisions on a commission? It really depends on you. I normally allow up to maybe 1 or 2 revisions max before I start charging again, because my time is valuable. And yours is too. You know, like, it's just not something that we always necessarily it's not something that we normally always take into consideration. Our time is incredibly valuable. And if you don't put value to it and just give it away, you know, doing other people's work and not getting paid like properly for it, well, you're just kind of screwing yourself there. But, you know, it's hard to learn how to charge people. And it's tough, you know, like, doing, because nobody shares that information, right? Nobody does. Like, it's honestly, just give me a second. We're gonna rant a second here. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna talk a little bit about gatekeeping and the gatekeeping of information and why it's so incredibly annoying to me that people do this. It's not okay. There's a lot of artists out there that are incredibly talented, but they guard their information of how they do and create their things so tightly because they're so terrified that somebody else is going to come in and steal it. Everybody has to find a path to be able to create that. This isn't like a one-person thing. This is a whole community and culture that we have to cultivate, and not just for us, but for generations to come. And thanks to people like me that aren't ever guarding any information that we know. Like, I'm trying to set up the next generation of people that come in and kick some ass. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to kick some ass. No, I'm going to be doing that too. But I'm also helping all the people to not struggle as much as I did. So that when they get older and they create the things that I'm going to be experiencing in the future, they're amazing at it. And that I get to enjoy the fact that I might have helped someone create those magnificent things you guys will create and will come up with. And if one out of the 120,000 people that follow me gets a job with doing what they love, or becomes famous for what they created, I will have done my job on this planet. And I just enjoy seeing people create. So limiting that to not because you're afraid of someone stealing your art style, or, oh no, someone's gonna learn how I do the one thing that I'm good at. At that point, you learn how to be better, more versatile, and then you help other people learn what you did. So then maybe you can learn from them too. Like, it's ridiculous. You know, okay, so my ex, Marianne, and I know it's something that I've never like really brought up, but it's been like 6 months now or something like that. But, you know, like, she was a tattoo artist, and it was a very heavily secretive world. Tattoo artists do not like divulging what they do. They're incredibly secretive, and the whole idea of the apprenticeship is amazing until you realize what they really do to people. essentially they treat them like slaves for a year or so in the hopes of them maybe being able to get a job. If you knew how much I despise that sort of like thinking, it's honestly like ridiculous that we still think like that. And you know what happened like a lot of the times with the people that I would see go through that is that they would go through the apprenticeship for like 2 years and then get fired or let go a week before they had their apprenticeships finished, which is not just a devastatingly huge amount of lost like time, it's just incredibly shady because they don't really teach you anything as an apprentice. It like, at least from the places that I visited, and like nice, no, like that's not the case, and that's a very bad practice. Like, you need to train properly and help the people that are coming after you how to create things, because otherwise, especially in tattooing, they're just gonna go and do it anyways, and then you get a lot of people that are violating health codes and getting people infected and giving your art a bad name, a bad rap. So, education is the key to everything. But the people that want to safeguard all that information so that they can be unique and not have to compete with anyone because they think that it's a competition. If I thought that every single person that I taught something to was out to get me, yeah, I guess I wouldn't share my secrets either. But I guess you gotta be incredibly insecure to think like that. And not very confident in your skills. There's a very big difference between a veteran at something, at anything, and a new person at something. So it's very, very rare that a person that just got into an art field or creative field of sorts will be able to steal any work from somebody that's a veteran. But, a lot of these people don't think like that. Okay, man, direct from Brazil, Vinias Narvaez. The art, her expression, the art, Hillary said that. Jeremy Nakua, very much so. Channel your inner sexy Mario, Robinson Fernandez. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a little flex because it's the first time I can actually kind of move in the last 3 days. So, boom. I actually have been developing a lot of muscle mass, so that's very nice to know that my body can actually do that. So. It's been a long time since I've been in shape again, and it's very nice to understand a little bit more of my body and then being able to push that. And then just to get the results I want, not just to show off how much I can lift. More like I'm just sculpting my body. So. Robinson Fernandez, channel your inner sexy. Flapjack, would you ever consider doing street art? The only reason that I have been reluctant to doing street art is, first of all, I don't really know anyone to go do it with. And second, honestly, like, there's so many projects that I have on my plate. So many. I still have to finish my course for 21 Draw on how to draw cute animals and pets and mascots and stuff. That is a huge priority for me, and I have not been able to get to it. It's been months now, so the moment that I get like a free weekend, I'm just gonna knock that out because it's something that all of you will be able to get so much joy out of. That is going to be a fantastic one, and it's gonna introduce a big element of what I want to start pushing with my art. And that is going to be that anyone can draw anything. Yes, that sounds like the Ratatouille cookbook thing, but I really do believe that everybody can draw things from their imagination, and like, to a point where they can journal like your life, which is the reason that I started really drawing like things. Because recently I went back and looked at a lot of old sketchbooks, a lot of them, and I realized that I used to enjoy making my life into little cartoon strips. Okay, let's focus on her for now, since we already know that the background's gonna look fine. So I'll just focus on her. Okie dokes. Hair will come out like that. And it'll curl. All right. Okay, so that's gonna be that. Let's move it a little to the edge. There you go. All right, so most touristy things have the name of whatever they're. Puerto Vallarta, and that's more for like tourist people that like want to just have a remembrance of whatever place they went. I don't know if Puerto Vallarta has it, but a lot of places have like a little symbol. So we'll add that as a possible element. I'm gonna get rid of this for now. I don't think we need that anymore. It did its purpose. Our anatomy is looking pretty nice and clean. I don't think we need to clean up much, but I think we need to remove some musculature from her. And just give her like shadow indicators. There you go. Something like that. Maybe have like a tattoo right here. You know, that stuff's gotten like pretty popular. Like the cleavage tattoos. We'll think about that. For now, we'll just give her like little stripies for her bathing suit. All right, so we'll leave it like that for now. He did that so well, we don't have to go through that. Not really sure what you're referring to that to. No, Sumarella, hi Rodgon, nice to see you again. Missed you. Sumarella, you're always in the stream. Missed you too, man. It's been a while since I've actually done these. I don't know why. Honestly, it's one of the things I look forward to the most every week. So I need to, you know, make sure that I set that priority for myself so that I keep on doing that more often. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to take one little side approach, which is going to involve the same character, but I'm going to try adding a little bit more of a body to her and making the pinup a little bit taller. So in this case, let's do the same thing that we did with the other. Let's map out our anatomy. In this case, the rib cage would be around here. Sternum is right there. Okay, so the neck comes in right there. So that means that our rib cage would be coming in about right there and curving up while this curves down into stomach and then into the hips. And I believe that is going to look a little bit better because then we can just add a little bit of a butt. a little tiny indicator that she has big hips. And that is normally a good indicator for any drawing. Let's make it a tiny bit more. There you go. So the reason that I decided that I wanted to draw more pin-up-y women is mostly because I thoroughly enjoyed the work of people like Frank Cho, Dean Eagle, and I've always wanted to draw women incredibly sexy. Like, to me, that is like one of my art bucket lists. To be known for drawing incredibly sexy pinups with little stupid animals. The stupid animals is a secondary part to it, but I think I already mastered that. But doing it with incredibly sexy women was always a very, very hard thing to achieve, mostly because I've just never been really proficient at it. Now I'm a little bit better, but for a very long time I wasn't. And now we got to figure out what to do with her hands too. So belly, rib cage underneath, but we'll push it a little bit so it doesn't create a tangent with the boobs. We can give her a belly button ring in the shape of something. We'll figure it out. And then her hips have to be wider than her thing. So at this point, I can either I think something like that would be good. And then we'll give her her underwear or bathing suit, which will be a little bit provocative by going slightly off the page, therefore giving you the impression that it's incredibly low. Okay, hip bones. Now let's turn that off. Okay, I need to move that line a little bit farther up so it looks like it's more farther behind her. And we gotta move the underwear line a little bit as well. There you go. That looks a little better. Alright, so now we gotta figure out what to draw with the hands. Even more. I wanna really exaggerate this. There you go. Like really Jessica Rabbit-ish. We'll bring in the bikini line. Okay. All right. Bring in the chest cavity a little bit. And then her arm would be coming out of here, but we'll do the same thing we did last time. I'm gonna create a basic of, and then just make sure that we follow. Okay, so this arm can just come straight down, honestly. It just has to fill in that area. But then this one can be doing something else. It could be resting on her hip. Arm would be coming out and then this way. So maybe the arm would be like that. That doesn't really look very appealing. So what we can do is you can have her tugging at her bikini line. Hmm. I don't want to have like a very passive pose, like just having her arm down. Even though it wouldn't look bad, it still seems like there could be something better to do there. I can worry about that later. Maybe bringing some attention to her boobs. But if I did that, then I could squeeze the breasts in more because her arm would literally be coming in. I'm not even showing the screen. Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, at least I hope my description of it was actually accurate. Let's go back. So I don't even know how far back that was, but okay. So we widen the hips by creating the basic structure behind the sketch, and then enhanced it as necessary to be able to create the proportions that I wanted. And I wanted a very hip-centric, very voluptuous woman. So I created that. The arms would be coming off from here. This one would relatively be a passive. We can have a little bit of our hair in the back just to fill in the space. And we were trying to figure out what to do with the other arm. Tony Chimp, hi from France. Yeah, ne sais pas. Wait, no. God. I used to know French a little bit, so I apologize. Hola. Just imagine the drawing, guys. Okay, we're back on track though. Okay, now we're back on track. Now you can also remove a little bit of this right there, right there. So we have our character. Now we're trying to figure out what to do with this other arm. It could be as crude as they're giving you the finger. I know that's like a thing. Yeah, but I don't want to. Okay. Let's go to the blues again. It could be shoulder. Arm. I'm strong. Almost big woman. I mean, that's not horrible if I just like leaned it out. But I don't know if it makes for a very touristy t-shirt. So let's see, shoulder. We bring it down this way. We got to be careful not to create tangents. Or if the arm is backwards. That's potential. I'm like a Terminator now. Okay. Okay, so now we can draw the arm like this, maybe. It's for boogie boards, I think. Oh, okay. No, I know exactly what to do. This is gonna be very, very smart. If I make a surfboard behind her, I can turn that into a skateboard. I can turn that into any other product very easily on a different layer, and then it can be easily adjusted to any type of merchandise that might be needed. So let's have that like that. And let's have that. I think that's how you got the fence. It could be the little pad, whichever. Maybe a shadow. And then we can have whatever in the back. It could be the logo, it could be come visit us, blah, 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 for blah, 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 blah. Okay, I like that. I'm gonna have like a little stripe in the middle. Create some contrast with her and her skin. We don't necessarily have to draw the other arm, but it's not like we're necessarily doing it from cheating. So we can actually draw like a finger or something. It's not because I don't know how to draw fingers, guys. Sometimes it's just a stronger pose. Yeah, that's just adding a necessary detail that doesn't need to be there. Okay, so let's sync those into our sketch. So I work with a lot of layers like this, mostly because I tend to go back and revise things as I see fit. This is the back. How would the front of the surfboard look? Just be like that. I'll have to do a little research, but we'll do that in a second. For now, let's just get everything else settled. It's her hair, so it has to be a little darker. Okay. I don't know if I'm gonna go with the boob tattoo. Well, we should probably give her some little thing right here. I like the idea of a necklace. Mostly because the necklace can easily bring attention to the cleavage, if depending on how you make it. If it's a pointy thing, maybe give her like a little shark tooth. You know, those shark tooth necklaces. See? There we go. Now it's pointing down to her boobs. Everybody's happy. Okay, we can start getting rid of the excess lines, cleaning up the design as we go. Okay, we still got to do all that right there. That connects there. The bikini goes around her. Okay, something's off here. All right. So hip bone, and then the thigh. So it would be hip, stomach, hip, thigh. And that's with her giving like a power stance, which is what I kind of want her to have. Like, bam! Okay, so we have that, Okay. Nell Casa, hi. Hi. Your digital art is lovely. Love to see more. You know, my digital art is always something that I've been proud of. It's very unfortunate that people just do not like to see digital art. They just don't. I learned very, very early in my Instagram career and YouTube career that it doesn't matter how cool and awesome a piece is. It's more so you have to find what people can relate to and what people can see themselves drawing. And if you find that medium, that happy medium, oof, it's going to be awesome. And you know what? Right now, I am really going to just bring in the boobs because it's kind of bothering me that it's so big. Because then you can't see any detail of the chest, like of the body. So I'm going to make them considerably smaller. Make sure that they're still in place. And then we get to play a little bit more with the stomach, the ribs. And then we get to play a little bit with this side. And again, we said that's going to be the hair in the back. All right, so there you go. I like that a little bit more. Yeah. I'll even make the head a little bit smaller. Or the body a little bit bigger. Okay, yeah, I think that was it. There was something off. It was just a proportion thing. Where are those lines? Oh, they're in them. Okay, so I need to join these two. There you go. There you go. I think. See, when you start second guessing yourself a lot, when it comes down to a single piece or part, just move on from it. Come back to it. Otherwise, you'll have your focus, and then you just end up losing, like. Okay. All right. So now we have that. Now we can come up with the colors of the background. For right now, I'm just gonna focus on creating an all-over print. I don't know if these will be silkscreen or heat transferred. It's something that I have to discuss with a guy later on, but just for purposes of creating something with a finished look, we are going to recreate everything from the background. So I'm going to start making that happen. Okay, so first let's get like a yellow. Yellow is a little bit more appealing, but is it gonna clash too much with the skin tone? Okay, it's either gonna be this or it's gonna be just bright blue. And this is going to have our border. Actually, no, it's not gonna have our border. Will it have our border? I'm gonna add a little gradient to it. The gradient's gonna be from white to blue. There you go, something like that, looks fine. Let's add a little bit of clouds. Let's get rid of this. So clouds are essentially like blobbies that you see in the sky, but they still have some depth. So I'm going to show you guys how to add depth to your clouds real fast. So I normally do shapes which have like a really rounded top, and they have a semi-flat bottom. Then I go in, I choose a slightly darker gray, I lock the pixels, and then I just give them like a bottom. I'm imagining that I'm looking at them from the bottom and giving them that bottom part. Now I unlock the pixels, and then I'm gonna blur everything with a Gaussian blur, creating some decent looking clouds in the back. Now we're going to add some seagulls. Then we'll also blur those, but not as much, because otherwise you can't see what they are. Just enough so it kind of looks like it's something. Make sure whenever you're doing something like this that you are labeling your layers, because it gets out of hand super quickly. And the whole reason that we do layers is so that we can make sure that we can edit things later on. Okay, so we have that, and then we're gonna create our background, which is gonna be a copy of the blue. We're gonna give it a stroke. Okay, I'm gonna give it a stroke. There you go. Oh, I don't know why it's so. What is it? There you go. No, not size. Opacity. Okay, at this point I can turn this one off, and we have a cleaner line. Okay, we're gonna move this all the way to the top. And I'm gonna show you guys a little trick. If you guys wanna mask out, if you added, I have a stroke on this layer, right? So if you added a mask to it, this is what would happen. It would still create that little outline. If you're trying to mask something out, what you do, instead of doing that with that, you group this into itself and then you mask it. And then you can mask out all the unnecessary things and keep that, you know, stroke. You're welcome. Okay, we're gonna start removing lines that we don't need. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to add some palm trees. Some very rudimentary palm trees. Let's even bring it up a little bit so it looks more like a palm tree. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect either. It's going to be in the background. And then we're going to just add a bunch of different elements to make it look like there's a bunch of palm trees in the back. Also giving us a reason to be able to black out a little bit of this over here, so it doesn't create too much contrast against our background. Okay. All right. Now we're going to blur that out too. Not so much. Actually, probably not even so. I might just do some super clean ones and make them come out of the page a little bit. There you go, something like that. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, something like that. Okay, now we gotta just mask out this part. Okay, that leaves us enough space for everything else. That's gonna be our background. Where's the background? Now we can add a sea. Let's make it on this. Not a sea, a sun. I don't know if adding it there would be convenient. I think maybe adding it behind. Okay. So a lot of what I like to play with is a lot of contrast between colors, between sharpness, between shadows, between light and dark. I like playing with contrast a lot. And what that does is it teaches you how to make things pop in an image. Okay. All right, for the most part, I think that background is good. I don't know if we want to keep it like that or we want to actually bring it and be more like a sunset. Guess we'll decide. We'll decide in a little bit. Let's see. Okay, now since I am pretty okay with the background, let's go into the actual inking of the girl. And then we'll worry about everything else. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to our inking layer, or sketch layer. We're gonna reduce the opacity of that. We're gonna turn off the other layers because we don't want to be distracted by the other elements. And we're just gonna focus on inking her. Okay. So when I'm inking a drawing, I take my normal brush. I'm always just using the same brush, but I do change a couple options. The smoothing option at the top normally is at 0. I like to bring it to around 15 to 20 so that my lines are super smooth. I also tend to keep my line work, my sketch line work, regardless of anything anymore. Like, I love leaving my sketch lines, even if it's just on the grayish layer underneath. You'll see how it comes out. Robinson Fernandez, you just saved that girl some back problems. I think I did. Robinson Fernandez, how do you lock pixels? There is a little tiny element in the side above your layers that has this look. It looks like that. I think it's like that or reversed. No, oh. Okay, anyways, it looks kind of like this. Like squares. And it's just a transparency pixel. It's kind of what it looks like whenever you don't have anything on the board. These little squares. That's what that little symbol is. You lock it, and then all that happens is that when you're drawing something, you click it, you can now only color within that area. And it's pretty neat, because it helps you be able to draw within just lines that you normally wouldn't. Okay, so now let's go into inking. Okay, with inking, I always like to start with eyes. It gives the entire piece its soul. So let's go ahead and get these eyes in there. And she has some big eyelashes. All right, so just to catch up, all you guys that came in a little bit later, tonight we're drawing a commission for sexy pinup for commercial purposes down in Puerto Vallarta. So it's supposed to be just a very sexy girl with a beach-ish type of vibe that will be nice and easy to put on any t-shirt, poster, whatever they feel like doing with it. Yeah, these are some massive eyebrows. Oh, eyelashes. What I'm doing here is, okay, so your eyeball is a big sphere, right? It's a big sphere. Now, your eyelid is technically like a little tiny, it has thickness though. It's like, it's not just a line, there's thickness to that area. And then the eyelashes come from the top line. And then from the bottom line in the bottom, leaving you with a little bit of pink normally that we don't normally draw. So I'm going to take advantage that I get to do a little close-up one, and I'm going to add that in there. Going into our eye and then our tear duct. And then we draw the bottom eyelashes. Now, if you want to give an indication of the bottom eyelid, I highly recommend you keep it very, very subtle, because otherwise you can end up making the character look like they're aging. I think bringing it down a little was more. And the drawing adjusts and changes as I see fit. For example, here I don't see the point of having such a big eyebrow anymore if I don't have that little tiny section in the front. So I'm going to change it a little bit. The eyelid meets with the top of the eyebrow line, and then the brow muscle conceals most of the rest of the eyelid, but then you would still see it come up right here. But now that's looking a little bit too busy right there for my liking, so I'm gonna clean it up. The undo key is like your best friend when you're doing digital artwork. Okay, so now the question is, do we go with dark colored eyes or we go with light colored eyes? For now, let's just leave it at that. Okay. The nose has to be very carefully set in. You don't want a ton of detail on it because it's just something that pinups do not have. They just do not have very detailed noses. It's just a common denominator for most people that focus on pinups. They just don't focus on the nose so much, but I still like to add a little bit of depth to it. Okay, now we're gonna go with the mouth. The mouth, I like to draw the top lip first, the inside of the top lip, because that is going to allow me to first understand where the lips are coming from. Like the lips, it's a complex shape, but it gets flat and then it narrows down into the edge of your lip. So if we go back to our trusty little side lesson right here. So we have the two edges of the mouth. We draw the bottom edge of the mouth. Then the upper lip can come out from that edge into the other edge, creating depth. That curls back in into where the teeth are. Right? The teeth also have depth. And then from here, you already established where the other side of your mouth is. just connect it like a little rubber band. And then just make sure that your perspective is okay or close so that you can map out the bottom. And then the bottom part also has a depth, but it starts from the same place. All right. So drawing that bottom part first gives you all the information you really need to draw the mouth. In this case, now we have where the middle of the mouth is, which is going to be around here, which means that our little break in our mouth, our lip that we wanted, is going to be around there. And then we already know what the edges are, which means that the upper lip tends to overlap the bottom lip. So if you add a little bit of depth like this, it adds so much character to it. So the bottom lip originates from the same spot, from the edge, but the upper lip tends to overlap it. So I like to create a little bit of shadows right there. And there you go. We have a pretty decent mouth. The thick to thin concept applies to this area very, very much so, to give it a little bit more oomph without adding too many extra lines. And now we can focus on where the chin is. The chin curls up into the jawbone, and then the jawbone curls up to where the ear is. Okay, we can do the same thing on this. Okay. Seeing if adding stylized shadows to that part would work. Anyways, let's move on. So that's what it would look like right now without my sketch lines. Let's erase these guys. There's a purpose for leaving the sketch line layer, and I'll show you guys in a bit. But more than anything, I just like to use it to start a general contrast, like where I'm going to be setting my shadows, where I'm going to be wanting to have things stand out. And obviously the eyes are going to be a big part of that. So I'm going to start coloring that in. The nose as well is going to be a part that's going to have a little bit of color. Maybe not as dark as I'm having it be right there. Or maybe something like that. But then the lips. The lips are going to also be a little bit. The bottom one's going to be a little bit lighter. And the top edge of the upper lip is going to get a little bit of shine. Since it's a surfer chick, I'm not going to give her too much makeup. It's going to be more like a natural look with a little bit of heavy eye makeup. Because that's honestly what I normally tend to enjoy when I see women like all dressed up to go to the beach and stuff. It's always nice to see a little bit of Okay, so we can turn that off now. That's fine. And let's continue down. I have a feeling I'm gonna have to make the face a tiny bit bigger, just to compensate for that little extra space right here with the nose, like in the sides of the face. So the neck doesn't look like it's gigantic. Which also shifts this, so I'm just gonna delete a lot of things. Learn your shortcuts, kids. Filling in those areas again real fast. And let's continue on with our inking. Okay, let's make sure our brush is at 100%. It's only at 30%, 9% opacity, 100% opacity. Hair is tricky, especially flowy hair. I normally like to map out where the scalp is and then just work my way down from there. So let's go do that. I'm gonna forehead would be around there, which means that the hairline would be around there. Which means that if I wanted the part to be in the middle right here for her bangs, it would have to be the hair flowing up and down. And then I want it to be coming in like that as well. Okay, and then the rest of our hair is going to be back here, a little bit coming through, and then it will come out to her back and around her. Now for this side, it also goes up a little and then it drops, but I want to know how much of her actual face do I want to cover. This has to come in because we're literally covering half her face, so we can't have any of that side of the face showing really. But if we cover too much of the face, it's not going to look good. All right, let's do that. Ooh, the other thing I didn't think about is maybe giving her a hat or something. Nah, it's fine. Okay, comes up. Alright, so her hair is gonna be like that, with the hair parting slightly to the side. And her hair flowing from there. The back of her hair. Have a little bit of strands coming onto her body to create some depth. Okay. So that's going to be the hairline. So let's bring that down a little bit. And starting. Now that we figured it out. getting those like perfect lines is a never-ending challenge for every digital artist. No, erase, then change it to this. Okay, that'll drop right there, and that'll create that depth right there. Now, this ear is way out of where it's supposed to be. So, the ear is technically supposed to be right here. So, let's erase that. Bring it into its proper place. And if I want to show it, I gotta just bring the So we just got to bring the hairline from the outside a little bit more, just so I can actually see that ear. Some piercings. She looks really mad. Okay. All right. So that's for that side. Okay. Sorry, I tend to get really quiet when I'm concentrating on certain aspects of a drawing. So if I'm not talking, I'm just really concentrating on a certain element. And I will focus on talking about it after I'm done concentrating. Okay. So as you can see, the head shape changed considerably from the initial sketch. It's probably about like half the size as what the original sketch was. And that tends to happen with my drawing sled. How do you lock so Kumani Shiznits? Hey Rod, I saw you skating the PB boardwalk the other day, but you were on FaceTime or something and didn't want to interrupt. Next time, interrupt me. Interrupt me and tell me hi. I love meeting people that know me. And that's just my ego talking, of course, but I would absolutely love to meet my fans more. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking very heavily on going and doing the convention circuit. Ooh, the ear is still far. It's still too far. So the ear is gonna be here, but she's tilting her head down. So technically the ear would be right here. Anyways, yeah, if you see me and you recognize me, say hi to me. I'll probably love you for it. You'll probably make my day. I promise you that. I don't meet that many people. So whenever I do meet someone that has a common interest with me, I would love to meet them. So the neck comes out from where the ears are. That's another little lesson. The ears, the bottom of the ears. That's normally the curve that you require to create your neck. You add the shadow from the head appropriately. All right, so we have a character. Pretty good so far. Let's get rid of the lines we don't need again. Lines of stuff that we have already drawn over. Or something that we have adjusted. Now the way that I'm seeing this girl right now, her head is huge. So let's see what happens if we actually shrink this down. I think I'm gonna like that more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a selection of the top section. Just over. And then I'm just going to bring it down. Now, what layer is it? Can I draw on 2 layers? Oh, that's it. Okay. That. Maybe just bring it down. Yeah, I think her head is just a tiny bit too big. Well, not a tiny bit, a considerable amount too big. It just didn't look good. And as you can see, I'm also not worrying too much about not having perfect lines. I can worry about cleaning up the drawing and like how the lines are going to look and stuff like that, like once I'm completely done with it. But this is going to give me a huge part of my drawing. So at this point, I'm also going to be concentrating on cross-hatching a little bit. And that's just to add a little element of the cross-hatching. This is going to start coming in to add a little bit of depth without adding any extra colors. At this point, I can erase that part. I think her eyebrow is just a little too high too. Yeah, a little better. Extend it more, and maybe not as thick. Something slightly. I forgot this. think I just naturally give women big eyebrows because I have big eyebrows. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, it's coming together, guys. Okay, hairline goes right there. Hair will flow in threes. Hair should technically just flow like a single shape. So some parts are fine, it's just leave it like that. You can always add highlights and shadows to make it look like hair more. Okay, so Robinson Fernandez, nice, thank you. Night Shay, hey brother, it's been a while, glad I made it. Dr. C, wow, Dr. C, can't believe I made it. Ran Cardenas, I'm late, but I'm here, was digging your other videos, and that one about eye construction absolutely kicked. Being awesome. Rene Cordova, he is my fellow instructor from Draw 21, or 21 Draw. And he is an absolute beast of an artist. So if you do not know him, go check out his stuff. It's absolutely nutty. It's so good. Okay, so adding little elements of shading, because the hair would create a little bit of a shadow. Again, all these little crosshatches are going to avoid me having to shade with a different color when I go in and I do my shadows and stuff. So it helps you quite a bit, honestly. Okay, but let's continue on with our sketch. Okay, the hair right here can go up a little bit more. And then we are going to get to the interesting part. Where's our frame? Gotta make sure that our frame is still matching. There we go. And then now we start inking with our frame in mind. So the neck naturally curves out a little coming down towards the bottom, but we did give her a necklace. So let's give her her puka shells or whatever with a little shark tooth. I'm starting from this side so that I can create the little elements with the string. And the string would attach to the shark tooth. Right, and then little beads and stuff would continue on this side as well. And draw different colors and stuff sometimes. Gonna create a little bit heavier shadow right here, just to make that part of the neck stand out a little bit more. The neck muscle connects to the back muscle. The back muscles connect to the shoulders, and the shoulders curl down like a little shield over your arm, over your bicep. Okay, connect the hairline. Make sure that this hair is coming back and creating a break in your line work, creating a little bit of depth. It's all about depth. Like, I will repeat that over and over and over again. Depth is king when it comes down to illustrating. All right, so now we have the middle of the neck that's covered by the necklace. I have a little indicator lines because, you know, we want to show that the girl is fit. Now we gotta identify where the neck is, and then around the neck, curve it around into the first section of the bikini. Right now it's creating a tangent with the other thing, so we'll bring it up a little bit more. Do the same thing on this side. Once we have the matching points, we can see that this one's a little bit off. So at this point, we are going to create the triangle of it. The triangle is going to be digging into her boobs because they're larger. So we have to create that with overlapping lines. We got to create that effect. So we're going to do that by creating the triangle, and then right here, instead of continuing on the side, we're going to be a little bit inside. And that's going to give an impression of compression. You can also add a little bit of a bump to indicate where the nipple would be. And it also wraps around the bottom. Then the little string right here will connect this one to this one. And we do the same thing for this. Gotta envision that we're going around like a 3D shape. And if we need to take another layer to clean up yet another time, that's fine. Sometimes it takes several layers like that. In this case, it's not showing like it's pulling enough, so I'm going to really enhance that pull all the way to the top. Like there's tension and weight. There you go. You can do the same thing here. It's coming in, it's overspilling, and then it's going to be curving up and squishing together and separating, creating cleavage. And then this one too, it's going to come in right there. It's going to squeeze those together and create a little shade right there. Same concept over here. And then we focus on the other shoulder. Back muscles go around. Shoulder, shoulder, muscle. But bicep goes from underneath the breast muscle. And then the rib cage comes in from that point. So that's where you create your little shadow right there for the armpit. Rib cage comes in, but it has to be stylized because otherwise it's just not going to look right. So we're going to have to modify this a little bit. that's the bottom of the rib cage. Okay, there we go. Okay, perfect. Got the hip bones, got the hip bone, hip bone, hip bone. Perfect. And get our thighs. Perfect. Okay, we created a tangent right here, which is all 3 lines connecting into this big dot. We can't have that because it takes away depth from our drawing. So I have to shift things a little bit. I like the way that this connects right there, because then we can add tension lines to make it look like it's pulling. The same thing at top. Make it look like it's pulling by doing that, and then we just have to adjust the rib. I'd rather bring it in. Into the belly button. Into the belly button, right. I don't know what we're gonna do for this one. Let's leave it like that. Okay. Rich art. It's awesome when you do girls in your style. Your work reminds me of Jose Luis Moro from a long time ago. I would love to see that. If you send me a sample on Instagram, I'd love that. Robinson Fernandez Jr. Are certain small details hard to get printed on shirts? Absolutely. It depends on how big and how good of a printer you're going to. But the smaller the detail, it's going to be a lot harder to print and make it look right. So whenever you do have very small detail, you have to be very conscious of what you're doing. Because not everything prints right. Not everything prints on every material too. So that is just one thing you don't really learn until you have to go through it. So be aware of what detail and what element you're going to be using. It plays a huge role knowing what kind of art you're going to be using your art for. Jazz Webb, man, where have you been? I've been streaming through through Instagram, but I think I miss doing the YouTube ones more. So I'm gonna be doing these a lot more. Hopefully the internet is a little bit better than it's been last couple weeks. It's been kind of spotty for me, and that's what's been preventing me from doing YouTube ones. So you guys tell me, how's the stream today? Is it better? Hopefully it is. Okay, so we have that. Now we can define where her bathing suit is gonna go. And now, this is a trick that I like to do. Whenever there's anywhere where underwear or bathing suits connects, you add a little bit of a crease. That adds a lot of very, very welcomed squish to the pinups. So I make it look like the string is digging into her skin. And that adds a little bit of sexiness to it, in my opinion at least. And therefore, it shall be done. There we go. A little bit of kid on the side, a little bit of the thigh. here. I need to adjust that because I need to curve it in more. But I need to make sure that she just doesn't look anorexic either. Like if I add too many sharp angles, she's gonna start looking like she's weirdly thick and skinny at the same time. And since this ribcage is technically going behind her, I think it's gonna be a narrower. Yeah, I think it's just a little more narrow. There you go. I think I like that. Yeah, that looks a little better. Okay. Let's remove a lot of the harsh lines that we have that don't necessarily need to be there. Okay. So now we have most of her. Jazz Web. It's so good. Stream is good. No lags. Yes. Awesome. I can come back to streaming here so you guys can have them later on. Unfortunately, Instagram doesn't let you do that. It streams and then it's just like, ha ha ha, nah, you don't get to keep your stream. You don't even get to save your video. So I don't get to share it with everybody else. So that's why I don't like streaming through YouTube or through Instagram. Okay, we look back at our sketch. We're seeing a little bit of lines that we probably shouldn't have there. Let's remove the nipple. That. Too much detail right there. Too much detail right there. Removing any extra stuff that we don't necessarily need to have. If line weight doesn't match us in certain parts, like here, make sure that you match it. If anything doesn't look smooth, this is when you start and you make it smooth. Alright, so we have that. I'm gonna create a shadow underneath her breasts. It's pretty heavy because they're pretty large still. So that would create a shadow. Okay, so now we have that. Now we can draw the surfboard in. And now we can see the difference between... That still looks nice though, so we can actually take that and then just modify it for that. Where's our sketch? There it goes, our sketch. The surfboard. There's two clean lines. When you see that your lines need to be even smoother, feel free to bust up the streamline setting in your brush. It helps out a lot. If you ever need to make straight lines like the ones I'm about to do right now, it's literally just leaving shift pressed and then going in a straight line. Well, you press here, you press the second part. Actually, that works in Illustrator only. There's a helicopter outside. So if you guys can hear it, I'm sorry about that. Must mean my bike is really good. Okay. Or you can just use the line tool. Is that on their shapes? Yeah. Make it white? Why did I make it white? There we go. Oh, my power on my phone is dying. That's why I'm looking at the comments, so give me a second. All right. Okay, so we have a line, then we can rasterize that line, erase the stuff we don't need. And then just drag that down, create the other line we need. All right, there we go. And we got to create an edge to the surfboard as well. So we can't just have it be a weird shape like that. We need to still give it depth, which we do by adding a slight line on the edge. Very, very light, which is just going to give you enough detail to make it look like it has something of depth. We also add a little bit of cross hatching. And for the back, I guess the board would still come through. Maybe some of her hair would too. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. The lines would continue on. Create a shadow behind. And more so, you add these crosshatch lines here just so that you can see the body pop more. So once we remove the sketch, we want the body of the girl to pop as much as possible, create as much contrast. So we're gonna make the surfboard whatever color we need it to be in order for the girl to stand out the most. These ugly lines. Perfect. All right, this is coming out pretty cool. This one has that line right there. All right, so now we get to draw a flower for her head. And we might just kind of freestyle it. Nah, we're not freestyle nothing. Just gonna draw it up. Draw this little tropical flower. Again, I'm thinking of the difficulty of printing that, so I'm going to bring it inside the hairline, because having those extra elements outside would be a royal pain in the butt. I guess I could do it without those things. If I did it like that, that wouldn't make it difficult to print. Okay, so let's do that. Okay. There is a streamline setting. It's called smoothing, I think. Smoothing in Photoshop. So you can use that. Let's reduce that. flower. No. So flowers are interesting because they have to look delicate, but at the same time you got to create a lot of depth. So little tiny lines and textures will play a huge, gigantic role with plants whenever you draw them. Okay, and we'll figure out the inside of it later. The insides will be down in color, so I can safely erase all this and then just redraw it in there. Okay. There you go. Okay. Okie dokes, artichokes. All right, that's looking pretty cool. Let's go back to our background. Add our background and our clouds and our sun. And I'd like to think that that's looking pretty damn good. Let's turn off the sun. I don't know if I like the sun in there. I want my seagulls. Okay. Let's start adding her skin tone. New layer underneath, above the background, but behind her layers of editing. Gonna call that colors. Now we're gonna choose a skin tone. I am absolutely horrendous at choosing skin tones because I'm slightly colorblind. So I tend to go with a pinkish tone going into yellows, and that tends to be something relatively close to skin tone. I like to treat it like a coloring book. I don't like to use bucket fills. Nothing wrong with them. They get better and better with every single version of Photoshop or whatever program you use. It's more of a preference thing because I just like to absolutely make sure that every crevice of my drawing is saturated. And I hate getting little tiny pixels that don't get filled in. I also do not set my layers to multiply to color. It's not as reliable whenever you try to make edits and changes, or you want to color the line work, or you want to do some other things. I like having everything editable, and everything that I'm going to possibly have to change colors for needs to be like editable on the spot, like at a whim's notice. Oh, this one also plays into my pinup book. So that'll be a nice one to have in there. Okay, now that we know that all the inside of our body is nicely saturated, I can go back and erase the stuff that I don't need colored in the skin tone very carefully. Okay. Coloring is actually the fastest thing that you do in drawings. Like the inking and the drawing itself is the toughest part. the coloring and the shadows and everything, that comes incredibly quick. Okay. Maybe it's because I don't put like a meticulous amount of like detail into my coloring. But normally I find that to be like the fastest and easiest part of the drawing. Like I don't think I ever struggle too much with coloring of anything. Okay, so we have our base color for Beach Girl. Turn off the flower sketch. There you go. Okay, so that's our skin tone. Now underneath the skin tone, and why underneath? Because I want that skin tone to block out everything else. So that's why I started with that. I'm gonna add white to her boobies. And maybe white to the stripe on the surfboard. Okay, white right there. No, maybe not white there. Maybe the flower will be white. So, since I have white on white, actually, no, the red doesn't look bad. Maybe I'll leave it red. But if it's gonna be red, I need to cut it out and put it in a different layer. Yeah, so we like that. So we're gonna cut that out, put it in a different layer, put it back where it's supposed to be, and then we can also make the lips red. Maybe make the bathing suit red. Or make the surfboard red. Yeah, there you go. I like that. Okay, we do the same effect. We saturate the areas that we want. And then we erase what we don't need. But we make sure that all the stuff that is going to be colored with that color gets colored. Okay. All right. So now let's choose like a yellowish, like an orangey yellowish for the necklace part. And then we're going to choose different variations of that, alternating just to make it look like shark's tooth. Make this knife. If it looks too much like the skin tone, I'm just going, there you go. But the skin tone needs to be right here too. And then maybe I don't make it that color. Maybe I make it like a grayish to make it stand out. There you go. Okay. All right. So now to decide what color do we want her hair. Let's do a brunette. See, the reason that I do progressive layers is because now I can just color freely without worrying about the other layers getting in the way. So the parts that are the most complex, like the hair and stuff like that, I leave till the end so I can just color it in. How quick is that? Okay, so what color is that? Yeah, I guess that's like a brown. Add a little bit more depth to the hair layer, mostly because I need to make sure that it looks like hair, not just lumps of things. So little streakies like this help out a lot, make it look like it's shiny hair. Right. That looks pretty good. Add some shadows to the back. Now let's add a little, there's a little bit of red right there. Boom. There's a little bit of brown over here. I want that anyways. Okay. All right. So now let's do, okay, hold on. I gotta add the little detail for the flower. I'm gonna lock the pixels. I said I was gonna do like a white edge. And then a layer on top of that, I can probably leave a little things like that. Actually, we'll do that in the highlight layer. There you go. There you go. Okay, so that'll be our highlight layer. That's a layer that goes all the way on top of everything else. I like to just mark it somewhere or another, and that's what's going to give us highlights throughout the whole thing. Highlights should go specifically on items or objects that are very shiny. You have to be very careful how many highlights you add, because it's very easy to just let yourself like make a million highlights and then it just ends up looking kind of bad. So make sure to keep it to areas where light would hit and you want it to look shiny. In this case, her shoulders, her breasts would create shadow, like highlights. Her thighs, her belly button, and her hips. Okay. Her hair would also create it. The sun's supposedly on top of her, so I like to put the highlights of the hair next to the shadows. And it just looks really cool. Even though it's not like accurate as to how you should do it. It's just one of those things that I enjoy. It just makes it look wet. Okay, surfboards tend to have wax and stuff, so maybe you can add a little bit of shine, a little bit of scratches, dents, stuff like that, just to break up the red texture. You can do the same thing with the middle by adding the red. Now let's add a little bit of shading to the body. And we're just going to do it by making a new layer on top of that, making a clipping mask of it by just right clicking, creating clipping mask, and it's going to be the same effect as you locking the pixels. Now it's only going to affect that one color, which makes it an absolute blast, because now I'm going to just choose like a purplish, bluish text color. I'm going to drop it to like 40%. And see how that looks. I think that might be a little bit too bold. There you go. Nope. But 27% is good. It gives you a nice little hint of color. The shadows, you should never do your shadows in black. It just makes it look muddy and gross, and it takes away so much from your artwork. So I'd rather use like a purple or like a blue, and then just reduce the opacity a little bit. Or choose a color that's within your color scheme, your color palette, and then just choose a darker color of that. It's gonna make for a much better illustration. Okay. Rich Art, hope you are going better with the headaches. The headaches went away. Luckily, I went to get tested for COVID because I've never gotten it. And honestly, yesterday was the worst that I felt like in a long time. Like, so I thought I had it. And luckily, it wasn't that. It was something else, but I still don't know what it was. But yeah, same, man. It doesn't feel good to feel like your insides want to be your outsides all day long. I'm adding little shadows for the necklace, for the hair. A little bit displaced to make it look like it's flowing over it. Little shadows for the bathing suit, for the armpit, for the muscles. We're gonna smooth a lot of these out into soft shadows. So essentially anywhere that there would be like a little bit of a bend or something, you add a little bit of a shadow to create a little bit more depth. Said the boobs create shadows too. And I'm going to teach you guys the difference between cast shadows and form shadows in a second. Not too shabby, honestly. I really like the way it's coming out. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of shadow training. And this is something that helped my drawings out a lot, so it's gonna help you guys too. John Gillian. Her hair under her arm looks weird to me. It's like almost out of place, far to the right. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it seems like a distracting element, so I agree. Let's get rid of it. I don't think it's needed. Just replace it with that. Where's my inking layer? There you go. And see, peeps, that is why you take criticism well. Most of the time, criticism is in one way or another trying to help you be able to create something awesome. Not everybody knows how to give good criticism, which is where the problem lies. But if you manage to learn to accept criticism in your day-to-day work, I promise you, you will have a much better life as an artist. Okay. Now it looks like it's behind. Okay, perfect. No distracting element. Awesome. Okay, that was a good call. Okay, so we're gonna go into soft shadows and hard shadows. Have you ever wondered, how do you distinguish between one of those shadows or the other? Right now, let me just make sure that everything is set nice. In order to be able to get that same color shadow, I have to go back, make the shadow layer normal layer again, and then go back in and do my shadows. Honestly, I think I might just... No. I was going to use that same layer for everything, for the shadows. But I think I should have separate layers for different shadows. That would be just a lazy way to go about it. Okay, but I'm turning it to normal so I can make sure that all the areas that are supposed to have a little bit of shadow have a little bit of shadow. Okay, that seems good. At least for the body. They're gonna drop it down to 27 again. Was it 27? 30. Yeah, it was about 30, I guess. Okay. A little more. Okay, so the difference between cast shadows, which are hard shadows, and form shadows, which are soft shadows, are as follows. If you have two elements like this, the shadows that they're going to create are as follows. Form shadows are the shadows that dictate how an element is formed. In this case, the shadows that would be inside of this sphere. Let's blur it. Right? The shadows that determine the shape of an object tend to be relatively soft. And they have that whole gradient look that we all come and love from our shadows, right? And that's the whole highlight, core shadow, midtones, and all that stuff. Those are form shadows, soft shadows. Now, cast shadows are the shadows that are cast by an object. Depending on the direction of the light. These tend to be hard shadows. Well, they're harder shadows the closer they are to the element. The farther they start blurring away as well, right? But that's the two differences. Now, normally when you have a cast shadow from another object, let's say we have, I don't know, another little shape right here, right? And the light is coming right here. This shadow would create a shadow on top of this element. My computer's acting weird. There you go. So that shadow comes in, it's casting a shadow onto the other object. that's what's happening with the hair. That's what's happening with the eyebrow line. That's what's happening with the boobs. That's what's happening with a couple different elements here. So those lines are going to stay nice and rigid. The ones that are, example, like the cheekbone, this one right here will be smoothed out by using the blend tool and then just going onto the layer with it and then smoothing out that shape. Another shape form is the one that's being cast by the eyelids, by here, by the nose. These are form shadows because they're not being created by a shape. This one as well, so that one's soft. This one's hard because it's being cast by the chin, but the neck part isn't. This part would be hard because it's getting cast by the hair, but this one isn't. This one would be soft. This one would be soft because it's getting definition from the breasts, but the one underneath the breast wouldn't. But this edge would because that's part of the rib cage. And as long as you learn to distinguish between the two, your drawings will come out pretty cool. And you'll get closer to doing things more like realism. I'm not saying this is the only trick to realism at all. There's a bunch of them, but it's something that I like to do. Right? So now you have your character, which at any given point you can change the skin tone to lighter, to darker, to whatever color we want. We can change it to a twilight if you want. You know, if you want Mystique, okay, we have Mystique. We just have Mystique and we give her like her little blue marks. You know what I mean? It's very easy to make a lot of things with the elements you already created if you allow for all the editing to be able to be done. Let's undo all this stuff. Okay. So that is one beauty of that. Now we're almost done with this piece. Let's give her some eye color. What eye color should we do? Like a green, maybe? Yeah, it doesn't look bad. A little bit of color right there. Okay. All right, that's looking mighty dandy to me. I'm seeing a little bit of brown from the hair coming out from the edge. I'm gonna get rid of that. And oh yeah, we gotta add some text. So I'm just gonna add Puerto Vallarta and we're gonna leave this space open for whatever they wanna do with it. So we're gonna go to the top. We're gonna add a new layer. We're gonna make it black and white. Puerto in one sentence. And then Vallarta, since it's for Puerto Vallarta, which is a place in Mexico. Let's make it all capitals. Makes it sound more important. And then we got to decide on the font for this. We got to make it a touristy font, so that's too playful. Ooh, that one looks good. Let's see if we find something better. If you move the seagulls and the clouds a little bit, literally put that there. But I told myself I was going to put it on top, so I'm going to stick to that. Oh, there you go. I like that. Emily's Candy. Ooh, what if I put in one sentence? Or, since it's going to be on t-shirts and stuff, yeah, that doesn't look bad. That looks pretty good. Then let's add like a little tiny element of flair. Not that. Okay. It's never good with filigree. But doing these little simple things like this tends to make your designs look a little bit better. Yeah. I mean, that's looking pretty good to me. And I think that's going to be it. I think we have completed our commission to a point where I could be very happy sending it to a client. So let's zoom in. Let's make sure that we have everything in there. No missing details, no blurring cutoffs or anything like that. And I would obviously send this in for revision, for checks in between everything like that. But I just wanted to go ahead and finish the whole thing. Now, this is going to allow me to have this space right here open for whatever marketing they want to promote. It can be for their company logo, it can be for absolutely anything they want. But having that, we can just put it behind all the other elements and then even overlap it so it looks like it has a little bit of depth as well. So it can be behind the character. So you can do a lot of different things with things like this. Even if you want to give it a different stroke, you remove the fill, and now you have a secondary box to be able to put whatever you want in there. I'm just gonna make it white, I guess. It can be a lot of different things, make it really, really fun for anybody that wants to create something with this. Anyways, thank you guys so much for staying with me the whole time. Yeah. Stickers from the 90s, Red Nose Bad Boy. Yeah, I remember those. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for staying with me on this Friday night. Sorry for missing Monday's stream. I won't miss it this Monday. But I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you guys later. I'm going to take off. But, yeah. See you guys. Bye.